constitutional rights. Give me my constitutional rights, and you have them too. We don't. Nobody does. Go home. Go home. Go home.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2007 Annual Fair Trade Breakfast. Today, we'll be talking about the WTO. We hear it all the time, in the news and on the internet. But what is it? What does it do? And why are people so angry about it? The WTO stands for World Trade Organization, and it's a successor of another organization called GATT, General Agreements on Tariffs and Trade. GATT started in 1947, right after the Second World War, by a group which was part of the United Nations. As you might be able to tell by its name, World Trade Organization, it is a facilitator, or in other words, it controls world trade. It is essential to have a WTO because when there's many countries trading with each other, it is important to keep track that there are no cheating or unequal trade going on. The WTO for many years now has also been doing its job as an organizer, making trading easier and faster to do between many countries. Thus, third world countries are getting more and more networks to larger countries. This not only helps out the country economically, it might even trigger good partnership between the two countries. Because the WTO is a large and essential organization, a lot of people tend to use it for their own benefit, including the administration of the WTO. This ends up making the WTO do things that ultimately benefits itself and the more developed countries. This is where we enter the first issue. How the WTO favors the US, UK, EU, and Japan for the ones who benefit the most from trading. First of all, the WTO is literally based in Geneva, Switzerland. And apart from this, we all know that these countries are the strongest economically and militaristically. This is the part that needs the most questioning. If these countries are the strongest and the biggest, wouldn't it be the WTO's job not to favor these countries, but rather the weaker countries that need more help? Not only does the WTO connect with first world countries, it also connects with other large corporations and organizations. The WTO sends in people who are part of the WTO and check if they're following the rules. In this case, the WTO says to Chad, no tariffs. But when Chad does lower their tariffs, the economy of Chad goes down because of the local farmers who are directly competing with large corporations and lost their businesses. And now that Chad does not have any money, the World Bank comes in. They say to Chad, it seems like your economy is not doing well. Here, we'll give you some money, just pay us back. So now the International Monetary Fund comes in and says, we're going to advise you how to use the money you borrow from the World Bank. Of course, the IMF makes Chad use the money to benefit the IMF, not Chad. So now, the WTO, World Bank, and IMF made a whole bunch of profit from one country. And they will keep on getting more money because one, they're a huge interest rate that Chad has to keep on paying until it repays all the money. And two, because they did not only do this to Chad, they tricked other countries all over the globe. If we take a look at some of the agreements the WTO has created, we can see a very close tie between the companies and the agreements. The first example is GATS. GATS stand for General Agreement on Trade in Services. GATS would have never existed if large financial companies, such as American Express or Citigroup, hadn't drafted it. GATS is an agreement that states public services, including health, education, and water, will be opened up to transnational corporations. This agreement legalizes privatization of public services. GATT says a country cannot have regulations to protect its water, health, and natural resources if it interrupts free trade. Next example is TRIPS. TRIPS stands for Agreement on Trade-Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights. This lets large corporations create patents on other people's property that they have not legally owned. This makes farmers have to pay the companies to use the seed that the companies patent on. The agreement was first drafted by computing companies like IBM before it was handed over to the governments to sign. There are other agreements like the Agreement on Agriculture, which was drafted by the former Vice President of Cargill, the world's largest privately owned